Myself and Mark. Is this on? Yeah. Good afternoon. Oh, late come.
I give it the door. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Can everybody hear me? Welcome to this meeting of the Hunters Hill Planning Panel. My name is Leslie Fenn and I am a solicitor specialising in local government planning law, and I'm the chair of today's panel. With me today is Mr. David Logan, sitting on my right, who is a heritage planner as well as a town planner. And sitting opposite me in the black suit is Philippa Freckington, who is also a town planner, a qualified town planner. And sitting opposite me is Virginia Wise, who is the representative on the panel from the local community. Can I ask that you all ensure your mobile phones are turned off? All the members of today's panel have signed conflict of interest forms, which are available for you to look at on the council's website. In respect of that, Virginia has just something to say about her conflict of interest form, so that if you do go onto the website, you can understand what it's about.
So in relation to 25 Madeline Street, I am the third cousin of Robin Allen, who is a complainant at 22 Madeline Street. It's perceived conflict of interest, but
Yes, I agree, and I don't think that precludes Virginia from sitting on today's panel. I think it's just far too remote. So if I could then move on to the program, the first item is to, well, before we do that, can I ask the residents who wish to speak that if the person before you says something with which you agree, there's no need for you to stand up and say the same thing. It's enough for you to say that you agree with the considerations or objections put to the panel by the previous speaker. And we are all going to behave so that everybody can hear other people. So I'd ask that you don't talk or whisper while people are speaking, because the sound system can pick it all up and it's very distracting. First item today before the panel is to adopt the minutes of the previous panel meeting, and I would ask for someone to move that motion. David?
I wasn't here.
No, but you can move the motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I move.
And a seconder. Thank you. So those meetings are, the minutes of that meeting are now adopted. The first matter before the panel this morning is a development application for alterations and additions to an existing dwelling at 11 Madeline Street, Hunters Hill. There are no residents who wish to speak, so I can advise that the decision of the panel will be available on the council's website in due course. The second item before the panel this morning is an application for 31 Madeline Street, and it is for internal alterations and external alterations to an existing dwelling. And there be nobody here who has registered to speak. Sorry, Wibelina. And so therefore the decision of the panel will be available on the council's website in due course. The next item before the panel is an application for work at 21 Ernest Street, Hunters Hill. And there are a number of people registered to speak. And the first person who is on my list is Carolyn Gallagher. Carolyn, if you'd like to come up so that we can all hear you.
Thank you. Can I have?
I'm sorry, it's 3 minutes, by the way.
Is that it?
Yeah, 3 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And I understand you put in a written submission anyway.
Oh, earlier. but
Yeah.
I've updated it a little bit more. I don't know if these
Yeah,
can
I've
be
got
put
those,
forward.
yeah.
No, I don't think you have these.
No, you haven't got that?
No. All right.
Certainly got something.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought I turned them up. a bit
Well, then
bigger.
why don't you speak and then you can hand them up and we can all
Oh,
look at it. Well, that's a
thank
good
you.
idea.
All right. Thank you for hearing me out. I'm standing here, representing my family, my husband, my 3 daughters. We've been living in 17 Ernest Street since 2007. I'm asking you to consider our objections when doing your final assessment on this DA. I'm trying to get not emotional, but I think we all appreciate it. Our home we're talking about, and me and my husband are planning on getting all in it as well. There's 2 issues really for us. That there's been no consideration at all in this DA to the loss of the view of the river that we have when they do this. And more importantly, our privacy is being infringed on pretty significantly. And there's been no consideration of that also in this DA. So let's start with the first bit, yeah. The unnecessary additional height to their property does not merit the loss of our water views. Yeah, we initially bought our house for many beautiful reasons. It was a big leap for us to buy that house. And one of them was actually the tranquility of the place and the aspect and the glimpses of the river that we get, which is the acoustics as well of hearing the rowers row and tin and everything else, but really treasure it. And we feel a strong connection with the river, which is very special to us. Yeah. We feel that 21 Ernest Street has plenty of that. They basically can have full view of that river, of the Riverview School, the beautiful aspects of it. And we are very happy for them to have that. At the same time, they seem to be okay to, get rid of it ours, with no consideration whatsoever. I think there must be other ways for them to fulfill actually a common decency, between neighbors, with view sharing. Could a smaller room, flat roof, or an extension on ground level be possible to achieve what they have set out to get in their drawings? What about a space under their large entertainment area? They've got that. That could have been a very beautiful master bedroom as well, with storage and their closet space. I also feel that council has set precedents in our immediate surroundings and has other properties to place flat roofs and on extensions like these. And I'm not sure why this is being considered so lightly. And the second bit, and this is a bit I wanted to hammer in on a bit more, is that the loss of acoustic and visual privacy to my family with 3 daughters, 2 of which are teenagers and 1 which is recovering from significant mental health issues, has difficulties with strangers, is extremely private, and has bouts of depression, and her home is her sanctuary. To see this rise up, and it's very problematic for her and for us too. Nothing in the plan considers the loss of our privacy that we will experience due to the extensions onto this already sizable house. Our kitchen and our outdoor space right in front of it is where you will find us most of the time. In fact, when we did our renovations, we built it so that we retained that privacy amongst us and enjoyed our beautiful outdoor space. The proposed plans with these new large south-facing windows will give the occupants of 21 Ernest Street pretty much front row seats to our special and private space, where we often sit in our PJs or our bathers, where we have meals and entertain our guests. Why do they have windows facing us if they are proposing to have massive north-facing windows, which gives them plenty of sunlight throughout the day? And let's not forget that beautiful view already. Lucky them. Additionally, we should not be the view, the river is, right? Especially when you consider that these windows are placed in spaces for storage and clothes Do they really require such huge windows, such privacy invading windows, when you think that most people do get dressed in their clothing space where they hang up their space? Why do these spaces, these windows, marry the invasion of our very beautiful privacy and our space, really? Airflow and light can also be gotten by skylights or very small windows. There are no provisions whatsoever in the EDA that address these privacy concerns and issues. I would also like to add, and this is quite infuriating, that this is the same couple who have been such incredible advocates for privacy when lodging complaints about other people's DAs. Yeah, there was the DA in Ferry Street a while ago, and more recently from a DA lodge for 23 Ernest Street, where their privacy concerns echo actually our concerns beautifully. We agree with them that privacy is a concern and should be not be trivialized by fellow neighbors and their DAs, and should be properly addressed in the design and build. Council should not give in to these type of double standards, I find. The long and the short is some amendments to their DA will have long-lasting and enormous effects on our living and well-being, and we are pleading for some consideration in this area. Thank you for listening to my appeal.
Do any members of the panel have any questions? Would you like to read those photos?
Yes, yeah. Yes, I would. Thank you. Yeah.
The next person registered to speak is Tim Ewell from 19 Ernest Street.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'll be speaking on behalf of Maria, who we think we're going to cover the same information. So
That's Maria Rossi.
Maria Rossi.
Okay,
Yes.
so I can put a line through that.
Yes, thank you.
So might I ask Mia Ewell, your daughter?
Yes.
What objections will she have that are different to yours? Anything?
I think she'd like to give a personal perspective of the impact that this development will have on her. She'll speak for 30 seconds.
Okay. Oh,
I'll speak for 3 minutes or less.
good.
And I wanted to
We've
start.
read all the objections, by the way, that everything was provided to all the members of the panel sometime.
I'm not a building planning expert. In actual fact, I've never made an objection to a DA ever. So I apologise for lumping through this process a little bit ineffectually. I'd like the planning panel to consider 2 requests. Firstly, fixed and frosted windows on the proposed southern upper story windows, which will directly overlook our home, our backyard and our private spaces. Secondly, we'd ask the planning panel, ask the applicant to submit an alternative roof design that allows for continued view sharing. I see you've got the photos there that show the impact of the proposed development on our living room, our dining room, our kitchen, our backyard and our bedrooms. And I've also tried to show the quite catastrophic view loss that we'll suffer as a result of the proposed design. Essentially, without fixed and frosted windows, we will lose all of the privacy we currently enjoy in our home. Every living space and 2 of our 3 bedrooms will be impacted. It has huge effects on every aspect of our home living. We are not sure why there has been no on-site assessment by the applicant or council in respect of the privacy loss and view loss, and no consultation by the applicant. In recent years, the applicant has strenuously objected and succeeded to the neighbouring development of 23 Ernest Street, as Caroline pointed out. And we would ask for the same consideration as the owners of 19 Ernest Street. And there is precedent here. The last planning panel meeting minutes from the 22nd of June, 89 Woolwich Road, special condition added, which was fully fixed windows with translucent film for privacy on south-facing windows. We're asking for the same situation and consideration. We're a young and active family, and these windows impact our entire family living and private space. We live, we work, we study from home. We are impacted in our kitchen, our living room, our dining room, and our bedrooms. Our backyard, pool and entertainment area privacy will be completely lost. Your decision today will impact every single aspect of how we are able to live in our home. Our neighbours at 17 Ernest Street completed an 18-month renovation, and both families worked together for a beautiful renovation with no impact on either family, and in particular our private spaces. We too have 3 south-facing windows that face onto 15 Ernest Street and 17 Ernest Street, into their kitchen, balcony, bedroom, floor and gardens. These windows are fixed and frosted with skylights. They allow privacy and air and light, and this is common practice for respect and privacy. The loss of views from our upper areas will be significant. These can't be seen in a diagram. They need to be seen physically. We believe that these 2 requests today will help achieve an acceptable outcome in this instance, and thank you for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you, just a moment. Do any members of the panel have any questions? David?
So is your primary concern the windows, the south facing windows, and if they are obscure, that overcomes your concerns?
Absolutely.
Any other members of the panel have any questions? Virginia? Philippa?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mia? 30 seconds on top.
I'll keep it quick.
Thank you, Mia.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My parents didn't want me to speak today, but I wanted you to hear and to see what a stack of paperwork will never show you. As you can see from the photos provided, my bedroom is very small, and the only spot that my bed can be placed due to size constraints is where it is now. The window is the only window and the only light that I have in my bedroom. My bedroom is where I spend about 90% of my own time, as most teenagers do, I suppose. It's where I sleep, it's where I study, it's where my friends and I hang out. I'm sure that people don't want to see me in my bedroom, and I don't want to see them in their dressing room. A fixed and frosted window would give us both the privacy that we need. I'm here today to please ask if it would be possible to have the windows of their dressing room and storeroom to be frosted, so I can live with some light in my bedroom. Thank you.
Thank you, Mia. Just hold the phone. Does anybody here have any questions? Thank you, Mia, for your attendance. Maria Rossi, I understand, is not coming, and Mr. Yule has spoken on her behalf, so I can advise you that the panel will consider what you've said, and the result will be on the council's website in due course. Thank you for your attendance. If those people would like to move out before we start the next one, I think.
So is the owner here?
Eh?
The owner.
Oh, sorry, pardon, I forgot.
Call him back.
Back, yeah.
Where's Mr. Atkins? Come up, Mr. Atkins. Sorry about that. So this was put in the wrong order, so it's not entirely my fault. Can I, you've heard what's been said, so perhaps you'd like to respond to some of the things that have been raised.
I think it's all addressed in the report, which is before the committee. Privacy, losses, it's all addressed.
But can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
does anybody, any members of the panel have
Yeah,
any
I've got one
questions?
after you.
Yes,
Okay.
David.
So how would you feel about having obscure glass on the windows?
Well, first of all, it's going into a walk-in wardrobe. It's not a habitable room.
That's right.
It's the front of our house. That's the main entrance to our house. So frosted windows at the front entrance. There was talk about frosted windows inside elevations.
No, it's just on the south facing,
It's the front of our house.
south facing rooms upstairs.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking about. How would you
Yes.
feel about that?
Well, I think it's the presentation of our house, the front of it. We don't want to have frosted windows, and it's been addressed in the reports. Where there's finalised the report, there's there's no loss of privacy or minimal loss of privacy, if privacy at all lost.
Can I ask you too, in the walk-in wardrobe,
Yes.
what's the height of the shelving?
Well,
Does it go up to 2100?
on either side of the windows, yes.
No. No. Okay, that's all right. Other side of the window.
Yes.
So
Oh,
you will stop the show. It's not what shown on the drawing. It's the drawing show the shelving continuing right across the windows. So my question is is it up to 2100 high, or is that drawing incorrect?
haven't got the drawing in front of me at present, but the understanding there'd be hanging spaces and wardrobes
Hanging
are
space, yeah.
within the walk-in wardrobe.
Yeah.
And there's a lower section in front of the windows to allow daylight. On both sides of the walkway and walk-in wardrobe, there'll be hanging spaces and wardrobes.
That's not what it shows.
That's
right.
what it's showing.
Yeah. That's all.
Philippa, do you have any questions?
One option, and it's unclear at this stage what the panel wishes to, how they propose to resolve that issue of privacy or to look at that. But another option is to consider highlight windows, which would effectively serve the purpose of providing light into those spaces, being the walk-in robe in the store. Is that something that you would potentially be agreeable to, or do you have a preference if the panel were of a mind to look at altering that facade? Do you have a preference?
So this part of the house, it's no
Yeah,
presentation,
yeah.
door and everything. It's going to change
Okay.
the house.
So you're
The perspective of those houses if we change all those windows.
right. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you very much.
Virginia?
Oh, I think most things were covered. The only other conversation there was.
My only other question, Mr. Atkins, if I may, Virginia, is just in relation to the objectors have raised concerns of view loss in terms of the design phase of the proposal. Was an alternative roof design considered as part of that process?
Well, first of all, we have to consider what was considered in the process. First of all, we could have pushed the whole house up, which would have taken more views away from the neighbours. We took into consideration of not doing that to allow a corridor which goes across, to allow views across the college into the river. That's one important issue. On the eastern side of the house, we did the same thing. We pulled it in, you can see it on the plans.
Yeah.
So it maintains view from the houses behind us. That's intentional. In terms of the roof, the roof profile is no different to what is in the area, preferred by the heritage people. That shaped roof. In the report, I believe it says that the flat roof, as the residents wish to have, it's not recommended. The two properties they referred to as flat roofs are completely brand new designs. One went to the Land Environment Court for approval, and the other one came to council. So they're knockdown jobs, which we could have done as well, but we don't want to do that. Knockdown jobs and rebuilds. There's no other houses in the street with flat roofs.
Thank you.
Anything arising, Virginia? Yes, go ahead.
The two existing dormer windows,
Yes.
they're not, it's not on any, of course, we haven't got documentation, just got your DA submission. What's behind those? It says
It's roof storage.
roof storage.
Yeah.
Okay, so you access that via just a pull down staircase?
Right.
Thank you.
And any other questions? Graham? David?
No. Okay.
Philippa?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Atkins.
Thank you.
Now we have an application for alterations and additions, pool landscaping at 25 Madeline Street, Hunters Hill. First person registered to speak is Dr. Robin Allen of 22 Madeline Street.
I've just got a very quick, under 3 minutes. My first concern is the impact of the current plans will have on the quaint National Trust cottages opposite my property. The proposed development will completely overwhelm the cottage on the property and will be an imposition on this quaint heritage area and the surrounding 2 cottages. Secondly, the excavation for the parking of 3 cars may impact the water table. The geotech report bases the assumption that there will be no effect on the basis of 1 bore to a maximum of 1.9 metres, and the remaining 2 bores were to 1 and 1.1 metres. This is not a true reflection of the actual depth and scale of excavation. This deep and large excavation may pose a risk to mature trees on neighbouring properties. Hunters Hill is a garden suburb, and we do not need to put these trees at risk. Also, in regard to the excavation, the cost-effective methods of this deep excavation will cause significant vibration. Of note, my windows rattles when the garbage trucks go by. How will these vibrations be measured and by whom? And these vibrations will likely cause damage to the neighbouring trust cottages, which are not built on robust foundations. My own house, built at the turn of the century, is built on brick piers on the ground. Also, the National Trust sandstone fence at the front of my property has no foundation and is also at significant risk. To this end, will there be suitable insurance policies mandated to ensure any damage caused to these highly susceptible buildings is covered? Lastly, traffic management. Madeline Street is a very narrow street with parking currently on one side and it's only 1 car width of driving space. The trucks necessary to remove the excavated material will be significant and probably in the hundreds over a lengthy period. How will these trucks navigate the narrow street while allowing the residents free access to their properties? My driveway is directly opposite number 25, and I need the full width of the street to access my driveway, both inwards and in reverse outwards. My driveway is narrow, and I'm unable to increase the width of it due to my historic truss sandstone fence. How will the trucks be able to remove this rubble without completely blocking access? Already there are trucks doing illegal 5 and 6 point turns at the stop sign at the corner of Madeline and Ernest Street without any traffic controllers. Not to mention the significant damage to our beautiful sandstone curbing by these large trucks, which occurs on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do any members of the panel have any questions?
No questions.
David? Virginia?
No.
Philippa? No. Thank you very much. Josephine McBride?
Good morning. Josephine McBride. I've lived here for 56 years in Ernest Street, so I've seen a lot of changes, of course. My submission about this plans, I've also brought, I'd like to share with you some little coloured photo of what's going to be impacting on my fence. But I shall continue with what I want to say first. The cabana. From my side of the boundary, I see this as a very large building that is abnormally high for a recreation room and a garden, and one will impact on my property and me personally. I suggest that in spite of the diagram in the amended report relating to the shading over my property, I am seriously concerned that due to the enormity of this structure, its impact will still block sunlight on my outdoor living area, my paved courtyard, and it will darken the northern aspect of my living room that faces that wall. The revised height of the cabana is 3 metres high. And this is what I want to show you, because I think the visuals make a big difference when you line up the visuals with what's on a plan. The revised cabana is 3 metres high and a width of 3.4 metres. Cabana total length is 7.6 metres. The cabana is set 2 metres set back from my boundary fence and also 2 metres set back from number 5 Ernest Street. So it sets that corner. Cabana will house filtration plant and heating for the pool. What method do we know that's going to be used for heating? The plan shows a shower room, exercise room, gym. I guess there's probably a toilet there as well. I sincerely question the ratio of the building that's going to be on this property to the land area and hope that this can be reviewed. In my submission, I therefore refer to part 3 of the Council's DCP, clause 3.3.3, front, side and rear setbacks, which states, rear boundary setback should be a minimum of 6 metres. A, ensure that the siting of new buildings or the alterations and extensions of an existing building respects the pattern of setbacks that are characteristic of the surrounding locality, particularly in relation to the pre-1930s buildings which define the municipality's identity. And B, maintain adequate garden space between buildings for compatibility with the municipality's existing character and to minimise the visual impacts for adjacent properties. Therefore, I would argue that the proposed cabana is not consistent with the objective of this clause. I repeat my former comment that the proposed cabana, as planned, could be characterised as looking more like a mausoleum than a change room or a gym, sitting in this historic precinct in our district. I talked about the boundary fence. There's to be an 1800mm paling fence. But my concern is then, what will the owners be planting on their side of the fence? I note that the neighbouring property at number 27 Madeline Street, to the east of the property, has planted trees, a hedge of magnolias, I understand they are, and have grown way above the top of the fence and now almost as high as the first-storey building on number 27. What is the height potential of the proposed plants in this DA? A higher hedge would impact greatly on my home. And also about the tree, I do support the removal of the eucalyptus terracornis, I think it's called, or a forest red gum. I watched the former owner, Jeff Marshall, plant that sapling probably in 1968 and watched it grow over time. Sadly, the bamboo took over the area and Mr. Marshall hired a contractor to spray the bamboo. The whole area of the garden was sprayed and the gum tree has never recovered. Plus, especially a beautiful camellia that was in my garden, and it died from the spray. The gum has struggled ever since, and it often drops branches on my garden and roof. I feel very nervous that when we do have the high winds and storms, especially now as the tree ages and it is leaning further across my house. Thank you. And could I just distribute a few?
You can. And do any members of the panel have any questions?
No questions, Madam Chair.
We've all been and had a look at the site, by the way. We've had a look at the site from the street.
Well, could I show you these? Could I pass these?
You can hand these up and I'll send them
Just, I
around
don't know,
to
if you
everybody.
want more, I can get them.
Yeah,
So
that
that's,
could be seen from the street.
that can't be seen from the street.
That
No, that's why I'm saying nobody else.
This
All
one's
the other
on the back
properties
of the-
have the street, but I have 7 neighbours where my property goes down into
Well, pass one.
the orchard.
We'll consider these then. Okay.
And please come in, and I'd love to show you.
Thank you very much.
So you can understand, because it's the visuals. It's not
Yes.
until you put something up there and say it's going to be that high, it's only this far from my dwelling.
Thank
And
you
I
very
think
much.
that's most important. Thank you.
And the next person is Donald Holsworth.
Yes, I'm Donald Holdsworth, and my wife and I are lucky enough to own number 23 Madeline Street, one of the 2 adjacent properties. I'm also trying to include the comments for James Wright at number 27, the other side, and John Aiken at 29. Unfortunately, they both have jobs, unlike myself and other speakers who are lucky enough to be retired, so they couldn't make a daytime meeting. Let me start off saying I've got no beef with the owners of number 25 building an additional building. My own house was extended in the 1980s. Number 27 on the other side was extended in 2013. So there's plenty of precedent, fully understand. My objection is to the scale, height, and even the orientation of the proposed building. And it's to one aspect of that I want to draw attention, which is the underground car park. This actually drives the entire design. If you look at the long rectangular plot, it's crossed about halfway down by the sewer. And as a result of having an underground car park, the entire building therefore has to be on one side of that sewer, and it's trapped between the historic house and the sewer line. And that has a number of consequences. The underground car park is completely unnecessary. If they follow design that look more like number 27 on the east side of their property, they routinely park 3 cars off road. The underground car park is therefore absolutely necessary in this parking measure. The consequences of having this underground car park are threefold. First of all, you end up with a structure that goes boundary to boundary. And it's just about the only house I think in the street that's built to both edges, because they're trying to squeeze in the square footage between the sewer, the historic house in the front, and the 2 boundaries. That then leads on to issues of privacy. In my instance, my first floor bedroom is less than 3 meters from the corner of the new structure. That's how close we are. The very only part of town, as I know you appreciate. The other thing that you may not have noticed is that none of the 3 almost identical stone cottages on Madeline Street actually are square onto the street. They're all oriented about 350 degrees magnetic. Whereas the proposed building that they're building is actually square onto the street. So it won't follow the line of the historic cottage, which the other extensions do. I'm not quite sure why the builders back in 1859 to 1865 did that, but it may not be coincidence that the angle difference is a difference between true north and magnetic north. But so you end up with a big square building in the front end of a long rectangular plot, and therefore it's quite a massive structure. The second impact of the underground car park is this massive excavation. We're talking about taking out 300 cubic meters of soil and 250 or 260 cubic meters of solid rock. To give you an idea how much that is, this room is about 150 cubic meters. So that the rock they're going to remove is more than would fill this entire room. And the GEO report says they should have engineers on site and they should have monitoring devices and alarms, but none of that's actually spelled out in the DA proposal on how that monitoring will take place. What happens when the alarm goes off? How will the work stop? What's the deviation? What alternatives will they use to try to reduce the vibration? Because the issue is we have 3 historic houses side by side, which will be greatly impacted by the vibrations of trying to cut through that 150 cubic meters of solid sandstone, which is what they're going to hit 1 meter down in their backyard. The removal, and I know it's been alluded to before, but the removal of that much soil and that much rock is really an issue of great concern, depending on how big the truck is. Unless you're going to use 22-ton trucks, the largest diggers that you've ever seen used to build the tunnels in the city, you're going to probably need 100 truckloads to get out the soil and 100 truckloads to get out the stone, which is an enormous amount of traffic on a tiny street. As we mentioned before, we've already had quite a bit of damage, and the reversing the trucks around is ridiculous. The third impact of the underground car park that I object to is the removal of tree T2 in the plants. And here's a picture of T2. Mind you, it's the.
Would you like to give them today?
All right. The feature tree that's in the center of the property.
Yeah, that's the one you can see from the street.
Yes. And in the previous DA that they submitted, their own landscape folks decided the condition was fair, and it made allusions to the lien on the tree, which is there is a pronounced lien on the tree. But I also have 3 photographs. The dates are on the back from 2011, 2013, and today. Which, if you get out your schoolboy protractor, you'll see the lien hasn't changed in the last 13 years. So there's nothing wrong with that tree. It's going to be around for a long time, except it has to be removed if you're going to build the underground car park, because the excavation will actually take about a quarter of the tree's roots away, and the report says it'll fall down. So in summary, not an objection to them actually building something, but the design they come up with, I think, is unsatisfactory. It has an impact on the historic landscape by building such a massive structure. It has an impact on the amenity because of the huge excavation, the vibration which would endanger all 3 historic cottages, and there's a removal of a prominent and important part of the trees of landscape, which is that tree T2, which is only necessary because they for this underground car park.
Thank you very much. Do any members of the panel have any questions?
No questions.
David?
Nothing.
Philippa?
No, Madam Chair.
Virginia? Thank you very much. Andrew Martin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Andrew Martin, speaking on behalf of the applicant. Obviously, tall order to commence a panel to approve an application that's recommended for refusal. I'm asking for a deferral. A bit of history, obviously, the application's been in for quite some time. The owners have used a recognised heritage-based architectural firm. There's already been 2 incarnations of the plans. The plans before you today are recommended for refusal. We don't feel that that far away from where it would need to be to gain approval, but that's only my opinion. If you felt that these plans are miles off in terms of a verb or whatever, but just as in we're too far away from the mark, then you would refuse it. If you felt that this application requires some amendments, primarily to the upper level, then the applicant can reduce the bulk and the scale of this building. And that's the reason why we're asking for a deferral. A lot of time and effort has gone into it. Appreciate council have to bring it to a head. There's no statutory impediment that I'm aware of for this panel to defer the application. Has occurred before in other panels. I'm not sure about this panel because the applicant would like an opportunity to come back with a revision that may or may not deal with the reasons for refusal. It's certainly, I don't want to proffer a position that it'll be wholesale changes. There'll be no loss of the basement. So if you're offended by the basement, then the application before you. If you felt that the building could be modified, we're happy to work with the council officers in that regard. The issue also is that we just ask you to have a look at the plan, be mindful of the setbacks of this proposal. It's a sculptured upper level. A lot of effort's been taken to present a pitched roof, sculpture the building, set it back. The setbacks are way in excess of the minimum requirements of the DCP and the LEP. In terms of its setback from the front street, its rear setback. The rear setback, for instance, in the DCP for 2 stories is 6 metres, and we're a long way off from that. So it's been a challenge to sculpture a building, present a building where we can add to the heritage item, keep the existing item intact. We didn't feel we were that far away from where we needed to be to gain approval, so it's quite disappointing after a lot of effort. So that's really our position today, and we'd ask you to defer it. We understand there's an 8.2, we understand there's an Land Environment Court, well aware of the processes, but we just feel whether the panel today could defer it just to allow some time to come up with an amendment that might be suitable. Thank you.
Do any members of the panel have any questions of Andrew?
No, thank you.
David?
No.
Virginia? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. Thank you.
I can now declare that the meeting is closed as there is no other person registered to speak. I can advise that the